I'm delighted to tell you that we're joined by Peter Ridsdale, the Executive Director at Preston North End and former Chairman of Leeds. And he's also on the EFL board, so he can help us out with all the financial shenanigans going on in football at the moment. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Sean. Morning, Henry.
Morning, Peter.
Now then, Peter, it's been a busy old week again regarding the EFL and the Premier League. Premier League, once again, not handing over the cash yet to the EFL, or not doing it the way the EFL would like it to happen, or the way the Premier League would like it to happen. Can you explain where we are with this and whether this will ever be solved?
I've no idea really where we are, because last September we had a proposal, and I stress a proposal, from the Premier League executive, ran to 28 pages. We called a meeting of all 72 EFL clubs. We presented to them, and albeit there were bits in there that some clubs would have preferred to be different or whatever, the overwhelming indication was if that turned into an offer, it would be accepted. There were some to-ins and fro-ins between then and about 3 weeks ago, when we were asked by one Premier League chairman if we would meet without the executive of either the Premier League or the Football League at a dinner the day before the Premier League met. We said there were 17 Championship clubs there, which I was one, 12 from the Premier League. And all we kept saying was, if you make us the offer as we thought it was coming, we would recommend it, and we believe the clubs would overwhelmingly accept it. They went, as you know, into two subsequent meetings, the last of which was last Monday, and out of that came no offer whatsoever. So we're sitting here sort of shrugging our shoulders saying, what happens next?
Can you just make it clear, though, at the moment you do get money from the Premier League. You will continue to get money from the Premier League. I presume the taps don't just turn off and you get nothing at all. It is how much you're going to get going forward, and when is that supposed to kick in?
Yes, look, I think the complicating factor is, and I know that one particular Premier League executive is quoted as saying, if it was Tesco, they wouldn't give money to the corner shops. I think it's, first of all, insulting to the EFL to call them corner shops. But I think, secondly, they forget that 5 clubs currently in the Championship and receipt of payments from the Premier League each year called parachute payments. So what we're looking for is a sustainable football pyramid where the flow of money through from the Premier League into the EFL is such that we can compete and be sustainable. We're in a situation where I think the parachute payment next year, first year down, is £56 million. And as you quite rightly point out, the solidarity payment to each Championship club is currently around £5 million. So we are getting around £5 million per club in the Championship from solidarity. But in the meantime, and I think Henry made this very clear in a couple of pieces he's done this week, just look at the players that the Football League are training or developing or helping for the Premier League. I mean, we at Preston North End, for example, we've had 4 players in the last 3-year period from the Premier League on loan. We've paid full salary recovery. Those players weren't featuring in the Premier League teams. They've subsequently been sold for over £45 million. We get not a penny from that. In the current England squad that Gareth's announced, I think 15 of his squad have at some time played within the Football League pyramid. So this is all about the sustainability of English football. It's not just us standing there with our hand out for handouts. And it's to try and make sure that the cliff edge between those clubs who get relegated and into the EFL and then going back up again isn't just a guarantee of re-promotion. Just look at the league table today in the Championship.
But Peter, first, congratulations on a good win yesterday. And good luck with your own playoff push. Just the whole sort of promotion relegation thing. Surely the Premier League clubs, I know they're sort of 9 or 10 who are sort of having an issue on when the money, or if the money, or how much of the money gets handed to the EFL. Surely they understand that without the Championship, without the EFL, you can't have promotion and relegation. You can't have this tense relegation scrap at the bottom of the Premier League at the moment without you guys. Surely they see that without the pyramid, they're just sort of floating in the ether.
Well, I think, Henry, look, I've got to be careful what I say here, but from what I've seen and from those I've spoken to, there are a group of clubs in the Premier League who believe they'll never be in the Football League anyway. And in fact, some, not sure, they question whether or not the pyramid exists and what it does and who we are, etc. And as we know, 6 of the clubs currently in the Premier League have been there since its inception. But by definition, 14 of them have changed over that period of time. There's been 45 clubs not currently in the Premier League have been in the Premier League. So there are some owners, some new people who've come into football in recent years who don't necessarily understand why the EFL exists, why it should be there, and they don't think they'll ever play in it. However, as you quite rightly point out, there are other owners or chairman or whatever who are fearful, obviously, of ever coming back into the EFL, and I'm assuming want to make sure that if they do, they've got a better chance of getting re-promoted than clubs like Preston, who are doing our best and obviously don't have that opportunity to have parachute payments.
Just talking to some of the Premier League clubs who have concerns about the sort of cost control of certain EFL clubs, and also they look at maybe a Stoke City and they see it's fantastically well run by the Coates family, one of the wealthiest families in the country, and they think, I'm just trying to give the Premier League refuseniks sort of side on this, why they should necessarily help out one of the wealthiest families in the country.
Yeah, Henry, it's not about current ownership models, it's about the championship and its ability to compete. You have to set aside, and as you quite rightly point out, the Coates family do a great job, as indeed at Preston North End, the Hemmings family do. We have issues where we can lose 13 million a year on average over 3 years. That's 39 million. And clubs are losing that. They're having to have owners who can afford to put that in. But despite that, we're losing around 13 million, and yet our wage bill is a fifth of 2 or 3 clubs who are currently in the top 2 or 3 slots in the championship who happen to have parachute payments, because they're coming down with 50 million first year and 40 million the second year. So in terms of competitiveness, media rights in the future, trying to attract people to invest, the whole thing is skewed at the moment between the Premier League, who obviously have created the riches, but on the back of clubs coming up and going down, and the Football League. So you can't take a single club, and I know people keep quoting billionaires at certain clubs, and look at an owner at a moment in time. It's about the sustainability of the clubs themselves and the pyramid.
As I'm sure you've noticed, Peter, Martin Samuel mentions in the Times today that you, as a club at Preston, have had 15.636 million over 3 years, which isn't bad considering you've never been in the top division.
Yeah, we haven't been in, when it says the top division, we haven't been in the Premier League. Well, and what he's forgetting to say, in that same period, we've created for Premier League clubs £45 million in transfer fees, plus, I'm excluding from that, whatever Everton got from Newcastle for Anthony Gordon, who also was on loan with us in the last 2 or 3 years. So we are creating value and wealth for Premier League clubs. And to turn around and suggest we shouldn't be allowed to compete because clubs who are coming down from the Premier League deserve the riches to automatically go back up again. If you take the top 6 clubs in the Championship today, you've got Leicester City with parachute payments. Ipswich have done an outstanding job, having come up from League One last year with new investment. You've then got Leeds United, parachute payments. You've got Southampton, parachute payments. You've got West Brom in 5th, who this is the first year in 20 years they've neither had parachute or Premier League money, and presumably have an infrastructure based on that. And then Norwich with parachute payments. What does that say to competitiveness of the pyramid?
But when you were a Premier League club getting relegated, you wanted that parachute payment, didn't you?
First of all, I was never relegated when I was at Leeds United.
On the brink of.
Well, we were top 5 every year. I was chairman, actually, Sean. But anyway, what I was going to say as well, if I may say so, the parachute payments weren't brought in until 5 years after Leeds were relegated.
Right, okay, you would have wanted it, though, as a relegated if you had got relegated, you would have wanted the parachute payment, wouldn't you?
What I'm looking for, Sean, is a smoother transition between the clubs coming down. I recognise that clubs who are in the Premier League need to be able to compete in the Premier League and have to have a financial infrastructure for doing so. But at the moment, the gap between the cliff edge between a club coming down, having earned in excess of 100 million first year in the Premier League, then getting parachute payments of broadly another 90 million over 2 years, versus a club like Preston or other teams in the Championship without parachute payments getting 8 million combined between the EFL and the Premier League. That is not a competitive structure. So I have empathy with the clubs coming down. I understand their infrastructure. They can, of course, put in relegation clauses into their contracts, which assist in the cost base being reduced coming down. So I'm not saying I don't have empathy with the Premier League. I've been there. But what I'm saying is the current structure doesn't work. The Premier League had indicated they would have made us an offer last September. And frankly, that wasn't a, wow, let's just take it. It's so good. It's so attractive. It would have given Preston another £3 or £4 million per season. And the parachute payments would have still existed at their current levels. But it was better than today. and we would have recommended acceptance as an EFL board. However, we have had no offer.
But Peter, do you understand the sort of effectively the delaying tactics of some in the Premier League when there's an independent regulator coming in who's actually going to make life tougher for them?
Well, there are some people I know who are very in favour of an independent regulator. I am fearful, and I'm fearful because I'm lucky enough to have been involved in football professional level for many, many years now, and it is complicated and complex, and every club has got its own nuances. Do I believe a regulator or a politician will understand those nuances well enough to get it right? I'm not sure. However, there is no doubt that in the absence of a deal that football sorts out itself, a regulator will come and impose. And whether that will be better or not, I think time will tell, frankly. I am surprised that the Premier League, on the offer that we thought was going to be on the table, aren't putting it forward. Because, as I say, this wasn't a slam dunk, let's take it, we're suddenly all going to be rich. It would have given teams in the Championship with non-parachute payments probably around another £5-6 million per annum, which is good to have, but it's not earth-shattering. And I think in the absence of an offer in the very short term, it will end up in regulation.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.